Welcome back. This segment brought to you by Southeast Termite and Pest Control. The weather is warm and the bugs are out. You can keep them out of your house by letting Southeast Termite and Pest Control treat your home for insects. These folks take care of my home, so when summer storms get the black ants marching, they don't march into my place. You can do the same. Do what I do. Call Southeast Termite and Pest Control. I saw those guys this week. They are good people. Family-owned business for nearly 50 years here in East Tennessee. Southeast Termite and Pest Control. All right, let's continue our countdown of the 15 biggest storylines to watch during the 2018 Vols football season with numbers 4 and 3. You guys tell me what's the biggest storyline. If both pretty big. Will fans stick by Pruitt if times get tough? And I'll take that in a different direction also and add in there, how will Pruitt react if things get tough?
Will Pruitt stick by the fans?
Will he stick through that? I mean, he hasn't faced a bad year in a long, long time. So if this gets bad, what do the fans do? What does Pruitt do? And then also strength, conditioning, and health. You got guys, I mean, arguably three of the most important players you've got have some sort of question mark. Trey Smith, Darren Kirkland Jr., Shy Tuttle has a history of injuries. Three pretty important guys there going into the season, and you've had a bad run of injuries the last 2 or 3 years. So will fans stick by Pruitt if it gets tough, or is it strength, conditioning, and health? What's the bigger storyline for you to watch this fall, Jimmy Hyams?
Strength conditioning. I think that one is. Look, the deal with the fans, that can be fickle. It can be 1 week to the next. Now, if you get beat by West Virginia 40 points and you lose 5 in a row with that stretch we talked about, that's going to be brutal as well. But I just think for this team to make the improvement, they have got to get better in that area, in the strength and conditioning. Now, it's hard to do in 1 year. We've heard former players talk about that, whether it's Daniel Hood or Will Overstreet. It's a lot easier to lose strength than it is to gain it. But I'm going to go with the strength and conditioning part.
I was tempted to go that way, but because
certainly, I said it,
yeah, just to be devil's advocate, you could. I'm going to look when you look at that 5-game stretch we talked about earlier. Tennessee can be strong, healthy, and in great shape, and still not get through that 5-game stretch. So. I just think that's going to be a really, really long 5 weeks for the fans.
Well, I think number one, to me, if you put it in perspective, it's year one. And I think the fans will be more likely to stick by Jeremy Pruitt, especially if there's some recruiting victories sprinkled in here along the way, and if you are more competitive. I think considering the recent history, it has to be strength, conditioning, and health. You can't have your starting middle linebacker out for the season in like almost the equivalent of a walk-through practice. You got to be healthier. You have to.
I think Pruitt has to do something to get people on his side, though. I mean, we've seen here at Tennessee, whether football coaches, basketball coaches, once they jump off the bandwagon, they don't get back on. And from the people I've talked to, and even the Twitter polls with Twitter, but still, the buy-in, the fan response I've heard has been more, they've been through it enough now, they're finally to the point of, well, I'm just going to take a wait and see. They aren't buying in fully to Pruitt the way they did with Jones, with Dooley, with Kiffin. And I'm not talking about everybody. Of course, there are diehards who would buy into anybody, but I'm hearing more people who are like, wait and see. All right, so to me, the question is, it's a bit, because it impacts, it's kind of like the first one we're talking about, the relationship between Fulmer and Pruitt. This is one that can go on for a long, long time. You don't want to get off on the wrong foot with your fan base. So to me, as important as strength and conditioning and health is, I don't know how much you can do in an off season. I'm going with, do fans stick with him?
That's my answer all the way, because here's the thing. You can have a great off-season conditioning program. You can get these guys as good as they're going to be, and you can still be a 5-7 football team, which means the relationship with Pruitt and the fans is set up for the medium term. And if that goes south, then it doesn't matter how good you may be at strength and conditioning, because by the time you can get a program in place, people are already wanting you gone. So I'm going to go with that relationship that's more important, even if they do a great job on it.
But what if you lose 12 to 14 starters again?
Well, it hadn't mattered the last 2 or 3 years because Tennessee's lost 12 to 14 starters, and it got Butch Jones fired.
But if you're healthy, you'll get to a bowl game, and then the fans will be behind you.
Exactly.
Well, there's no guarantee if you're healthy, you're getting to a bowl game.
And how much were they behind at 8-4?
Oh,
that's true.
They were behind them pretty good. Look at the bowl attendance.
I see. I disagree.
After that last
disagree with you. Look at how they
not after
traveled.
that last 9-4. Not after the last one. They went to the Music City Bowl and played Nebraska, and they've blown the East.
There were some that jumped off.
And they
but
came in the last year
still,
with
I look at
Jones
the
on
bowl
the hot seat.
attendance. That tells me a lot.
He came in on the hot seat after a 9-4 season, though. I think this is a pretty tough place to win.
It's a tough crowd in the words of
It is a tough
crowd.
The other thing that's interesting, though, is we could talk about strength and conditioning, and part of that goes back to, a few years ago when Appalachian State was pushing them along the line of scrimmage. Okay, that's not right. So there's your strength and conditioning. But when it comes to the injuries, I still say some of that's luck. I mean, Juwan Jennings, you lose him for the year, he breaks his wrist. What strength and conditioning program fixes that? Darren Kirkland Jr. had bad knees. What strength and conditioning
But,
program fixes that?
I think Jimmy touched on something that we saw during games last year. This team quit, and I think that's either lack of confidence or lack of conditioning. There's something going on there where, as the game goes on, you're not strong enough to man up and match up.
But they did this and they ran to the other side of the field. All right. When we come back, we got the top 2 storylines. I knew from day one that was going to mean something. All right. When we come back, we got the top 2 storylines of the year to count down, to discuss, to break down. Come on back on the Sports Horse.